All right, Buck fans. Well, Peter Blake guaranteed we'd have one. So here you have it. We are week 2 of the preseason No Quarter Given podcast. Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall to 0-1, falling 27-17 to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Raymond James Stadium last Friday night. Peter Blake, welcome in, sir.
Yes, sir. It's just preseason. It's just preseason. That's all I heard all night long. You're exactly right. It's preseason football. Plenty of mistakes, plenty of things to talk about here on the No Quarter Given podcast. And absolutely, I guaranteed it. I want to talk Bucs football. That's what we do here.
That's right. That's right. It's a lot more. We thank God we're not talking Rays because they got a lot of stuff going on in the Rays side of the of St. Petersburg with all that stuff, huh?
Oh my gosh, people being offended by it, all the issues that are going on right now, all the injuries. I mean, can we get like just some
Jeez.
normal stuff? Like, I'll take a losing streak. I mean, we've already had that losing streak. I'll take a losing streak after all the news that's happened with Wander Franco and
McClanahan.
Tommy
Yikes.
John surgery, if you didn't know. Yep, that's the update.
All right, Buck fans. Again, Bucks fall to 0-1. Actually, it looked like on TV, looked like it was a pretty decent crowd.
Yeah.
Normally, for week 1, again, probably a lot of Steeler fans. I know that they're a big draw. So, but looked like a pretty good turnout at Raymond James Stadium. Bucks will head to New York here this weekend to see the Jets. We'll get into that here at the end of the podcast. Their joint practices with the Jets these next Wednesday and Thursday. But let's get into the action on Saturday night. Baker Mayfield gets the start in week 1. Kyle Trask is going to start week 2, according to Todd Bowles. What'd you think? Just give me a quick synopsis. What'd you think of Baker and Trask?
Well, I thought Baker outplayed him easily. I mean, 8 for 9, 63 yards. Good drive there, 10 plays, 59 yards. Didn't start out so well, right? I mean, the imagination wasn't there. In fact, you thought Byron Leftwich was calling the plays again, Jason Powers, with the 3 straight runs and then trying to go for 4th down, and you have a penalty by the rookie on the right side there. So it didn't necessarily work out great at first. But then the Bucs settled down. I thought Baker played a lot better than Kyle Trask, although to be fair, Trask wasn't necessarily put in the greatest situation with that right side, namely your guy right there who needs to play maybe a little bit more pickleball, Luke Gettig.
Yeah, Gedeke and Mock didn't have the best of nights. I think one of the reasons Canales, if you remember, like you mentioned, Canales ran the 3 in a row there at the end in that first drive. I think he was trying to make a statement to see if those guys could get a yard, and they couldn't. They didn't. The pushover on the right side was not great in the first game. Again, it's only the first game, so we're not going to kill anybody here. We're not going to make any big judgments, but week 1, you definitely want to see some progression here in week 2 with Gedeke. He wasn't terrible. He just wasn't great. I mean, he was very average at best. And Mock, obviously his first game, he jumps off sides. They try to go quick on 4th down, and he can't hold his water. He flinches, and they obviously have to punt after that. So, in Trask, I would say this about Trask. He forced one ball. The one interception he threw was a bad decision. He admitted, I don't think he played terrible. He just one bad throw, all that stuff. And give Baker credit. He played well. And hopefully week 2, we see him maybe with the starters a little bit in the game, but we'll see how the rotation goes. What'd you think? Let's start the offensive line. What'd you think of the offensive line? Obviously, we just talked about the right side. Do you think that's an issue potentially, or do you think that's week 1 jitters, maybe whatever? Pittsburgh's got a good defense too now.
I mean, but you didn't have TJ Watt over there. I mean, that's the discouraging thing, right? You had Nick Herbig. Who the heck is Nick Herbig? Who's that guy? I mean, I heard from analysts out there that he's following around TJ Watt. He looked like TJ Watt out there. I mean, Gedeke looked like a swinging gate there. I mean, that was the walking turnstile. What, Donovan Smith? Did they switch bodies there at that? It was just horrible. I mean, that right side, I get it. You have Mock, like you said, at the right guard spot. And now there's so much uncertainty that's kind of clouding this team with Ryan Jensen. He hasn't had a practice.
Let's talk about that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that for me, I was so
huge,
encouraged and positive about this offensive line. They have all this depth, and now I'm not necessarily so sure about that, Jason Powers.
And Todd Bowles on Monday, I think he talked to the press on Monday following the game. didn't sound very confident that Ryan Jensen would be ready by week one. And you could tell the tone in his voice. He hasn't practiced. It doesn't sound like he's practicing anytime soon. It didn't sound good for Ryan Jensen.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we talked about the Rays coming. I mean, what pitcher is going to get hurt next on the rotation? Seems like every pitcher is hurt, and now with the Ryan Jensen situation, who knows when that's going to get cleared up? So,
Which
look
means
for other.
Robert Haynes. He's probably the center.
Yep, or Nick
Um,
Leverett.
or Nick Leverett, correct. What are your thoughts? And again, a guy I forgot to mention last week that I didn't think about till I saw him in the game. Do you think there's a thought maybe do you maybe put a little more pressure on Mock and give Stinney a start at right guard?
I mean, why not? If he's not playing that well because he didn't necessarily have that, he didn't create those holes. And I get it. People are saying, well, it's early. He's a rookie. But when you have 3rd and 1, you get stuffed on that right side, and you have 4th and 1, and you get stuffed on consecutive
Right.
plays, that's not encouraging if you want to be a run team. So, yeah, I could definitely see Stinney starting there if the rookie messes up. And, look, if you're Todd Bowles, and I get it, it's early. It's one preseason game. But if you're Todd Bowles and you're looking at this, you're like, am I going to really go into the season with this line? Is this all going to work out in our favor? Are you going to have to keep another tight end on that side to chip to help out on that right side with, it seems like the inexperience, right? So
And remember, there's time for the Bucs. If guys will get moved, cut, traded in training camp. So you never know if Jensen's issue is the long term and they think it's maybe season long kind of deal. Maybe they go trade for a center. Who knows? Maybe we'll see. And again, I would say this about the short yardage stuff. I'd be pretty confident most of the short yardage stuff in the regular season is going to the left side with Filer and Tristan Wirfs when
yeah,
it's 3rd and 4th and 1.
I think everybody was surprised, too, that they didn't play all their starters. I mean, isn't that what preseason's for? I get it, you have training camp, and you want to avoid injuries because that's the number one priority. But I was kind of surprised that you didn't see Filer and Tristan Wirfs on that left side because you got to get them some reps. You got to get these guys some reps. So Evans has been there before. Godwin has been there before. But this offensive line is being remade as we speak. So I would like to see those players play. And we'll see what happens on Saturday night. Do they get some time? How does it affect them? You're not going with the same offense that you had last year. It's a totally new offense.
Yep.
So you would think that you want to get some of these players those reps.
Let's go to the skills players. To me, the shining star of the night Saturday night was Trey Palmer. I mean, just was dynamic, made a great toe tap in the back of the end zone on a nice high throw it wasn't a high throw, it was a perfect throw by Baker where you have to throw it. Palmer went up, made a catch, got his feet down. I liked what I saw out of Trey Palmer.
Yeah, I mean, I asked TJ Reeves on Saturday night on the post game, or Friday night, on the post game edition of the Sports Web, what was better, the ball placement, the catch, or the toe tap, toe drag swag by Palmer there in the end zone. So he definitely showed out, and I have no idea, tag team partner of the world, Jason Powers, how this man lasted that long in this NFL draft. He looks really good, has lots of potential, and the big time question was not necessarily his speed, because we talked about it in college football. 3 catches for over 70 yards at Nebraska, which is saying something because they've had their own quarterback problems there.
Right.
The biggest question was consistently, can he catch with his hands? And he did that on Friday night. So we'll see if he can continue that during this preseason and possibly make some contributions in the regular season.
It would not shock me. I'm just saying, it wouldn't shock me if he's the number 3 receiver. If he continues to progress the way Russell Gage has struggled to get on the field, stay healthy, it wouldn't shock me if Russell Gage is a guy that could potentially get traded. You could maybe get a 6th round pick for a guy like him. His salary's not terrible for a needy, for maybe a playoff needy team. I could see a scenario where Trey Palmer's your number 3 receiver, and maybe Devin Compton is your number 4 guy.
It's certainly possible. Tompkins, everything that comes in front of him, he catches. We heard that in training camp. He doesn't drop one pass. He didn't do that on Friday night. And if you do trade a Russell Gage, can you get a right tackle? Can you get a center in return for that? I just don't think those guys are growing on trees, but you're exactly right. If Gage cannot stay healthy, then both of those players, a Tompkins and a Palmer, will bear to watch. That's for sure. Will be something to watch here coming up in the next couple weeks.
All right, let's go to the defense. You had a 3-sack performance. Cam Gill, 1.5 sacks. One of those, the quarterback fell down. But again, good solid pressure by Gill. He was a factor last year until he got hurt. I mean, he didn't play a lot, but he was a kind of a specialty player. He played a little bit. Just your thoughts overall. I didn't like that the Steelers went right down the field on the first drive, kind of pretty unabated without much resistance on the first drive.
Yeah, Zion McCollum didn't look good against Deontay Johnson.
And Pickens.
Pickens, didn't look good against Pickens. We're still in preseason, too. Didn't look good against him. And, of course, Pickens said he's the best wide receiver in the league. Certainly looked like it the other night. And with that being said, McCollum, had a penalty. And then also he had an interception.
Nice play on the interception. Give him credit. Right. Turned his head around, caught the ball, which, again, the Bucs are really professing turnovers, and give Zion credit. He caught the ball. It was a nice play he made, but you're right. He was a little hesitant. He mentioned in the post game on the slant route to Pickens and all that stuff. And again, we know Zion can play against the second stringers. Can he play against the upper end number 1 guys, 1 and 2 guys?
Well, that's it. And Yaya Diaby. I love seeing this kid, even though he kind of got banged up. He was okay.
Yeah.
He showed flashes of brilliance. And I still think, Jason, that he's going to take a lot of reps away from JTS and Nelson. He's going to have an opportunity to supplant JTS if JTS doesn't live up, to his potential of finishing plays. He's got everything, and that would be Diaby. And once again, I don't know how he lasted to the 3rd round because he is a physical specimen. He's a man among boys.
Let's give the Bucs personnel department a little credit for finding Palmer, finding Diaby. Another guy, it sounds like is number 1 in the rotation right now at nickel is this Christian Izzian kid from Rutgers, undrafted free agent. I mean, so again, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that we're starting a nickel undrafted free agent, but give the personnel department credit for finding guys that it looks like can make a contribution.
Yeah, and what you hear is he looks a lot like Antoine Winfield Jr. If he's anything like Antoine Winfield Jr., then the Bucs definitely got to steal. And then on top of that, Sean Tucker showed flashes of brilliance. And I don't know what the refs were looking at. They probably missed their daily appointment at Lens Crafters.
Hey.
Sorry, you could have did a better job there, Jason Powers, of refereeing the other night. That was not a hold. Tucker showed lots of explosive nature to his game, and I feel like, there could be some potential there where maybe he gets some carries during the season if Rashard White gets hurt, knock on wood, or you need a guy to come in there for Chase Edmonds if Edmonds doesn't produce right away.
I think Keyshawn Vaughn's going to have a tough time making this roster.
I agree.
I think Chase Edmonds showed some burst.
Yep.
I think they like Tucker. You've heard him mention Tucker's name a few times. I could see Keyshawn Vaughn being a casualty.
Yeah, I could see it too. And as crazy as that sounds, he's a 3rd-round pick, but he's shown nothing. And maybe he hasn't necessarily gotten the opportunities, but every time he does get some type of opportunity, what does he do? He does nothing. So
is he your new victim of volume?
No, he's definitely not my victim of volume because he showed me nothing. I mean, at least Rojo showed flashes of brilliance where he was nearly at 1,000 yards. This kid has shown nothing. What's his claim to fame? 1 touchdown from Tom Brady in the San Diego game,
right?
2020. I mean, I think that's about it. And then getting his head knocked off against Chicago on Thursday Night Football and fumbling the ball. I remember it all. I remember all that stuff. So, I mean, really, has he shown anything as a 3rd-round pick?
No, I agree. I think he's in trouble. And again, the Bucs would probably save a couple $100,000 in salary cap room because I'm sure the undrafted rookie is going to make less than a 4th-year draft pick. So again, it's a situation where Keyshawn needs to show something these next 2 weeks, or he might have a problem making this Buccaneer team.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to play special teams? Is he going to be like Giovanni Bernard last year on the fake punt? No,
I don't think so.
No, hopefully you don't run a fake punt like they did last year.
Please. Okay. All right. Buccaneers head to week 2, heading to New York Saturday night in MetLife. You're probably not going to see Aaron Rodgers. You are going to see Kyle Trask start. We don't know yet what the Bucs playing situation, who's going to play, who's not. But what we do know, Wednesday, Thursday, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, the practices may have already happened. You are going to see the Bucs ones against the Jets ones in these practices.
Yeah,
And
just one practice though.
it is only one. I thought it was two.
No, it's only one. They changed it up.
Oh, I didn't see. Okay.
Probably Aaron Rodgers is calling the shots. He wants to go out to the dark room there. Darkness is my friend. He definitely probably wanted to do that. That's probably the reason why they only have one practice.
So I definitely think you're going to see the ones-on-ones in these practices a lot. So it'll be a good litmus test to see Evans and Godwin versus a Sauce Gardner, Gedeke against that front four. I mean, the Jets got a very formidable. The Bucs O-line versus that Jets defensive line will be good. I want to see Trask throw the ball against the Jets. Again, Jets are going to be a top 5 defense in most accounts. So again, it'll be a very good litmus test for the quarterbacks. I want to see the ones in Mayfield and Trask, how they do.
And then also the defense versus this offense,
yeah,
right? Because they have pass rushers. So, and this defense is going to be counted on a lot. That's the reason why you get Aaron Rodgers. They also signed Dalvin Cook this week. I don't see him making an impact in practice. I think they're going to go slow with him. Make him wait a little bit until the regular season. But they're trying to get better, and they depend a lot on their defense. So it's not only going to be a challenge with the Bucs defense versus Aaron Rodgers, who most likely will play during these joint practices. But also the defense versus this offensive line, which I have major question marks about.
See.
They're my biggest question coming into the season now. They really are. It's
no,
scary.
We talked about it. We thought the O-line was going to be if they can, become. Give me last thing. We'll get out of here. What'd you think, just in general? Again, I know it's only week 1 and it's pretty vanilla, I'm sure. What'd you think of Dave Canales calling plays?
I mean, I liked it. I like the quarterback waggles. I like the pass play action. Of course, I don't think he's going to show everything, and they shouldn't show everything.
No.
You don't want to give anything away. You want to be ready for week 1 versus Minnesota. So there's some good things there. Of course, I didn't understand the first 3 calls, but like you said, they were trying to make a statement. Statement wasn't answered. We'll see how it works out the next game versus the New York Jets on Saturday night.
What'd you think of the kicking situation? Looked like McLaughlin. They interviewed McLaughlin this week with the press. What'd you think?
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, how many kicks you get in those game time situations. I mean, who do you think it favors? You're the kicker guy.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, again, it's probably 60-40 McLaughlin, what I would guess going into this. But again, who knows? And this may be a situation. I don't know. They won't keep them both, but I mean, I would guess McLaughlin gets the first shot. Would be my guess, unless we're not hearing stuff in practice. Again, they're charting every kick in practice. You can be assured. So again, we've not heard anything disparaging about either guy. I think if it's even, they would go with McLaughlin because he's got a little more of a history. He's done it a little bit better, and obviously he got the first shot last week. So we'll be interesting to see how that unfolds here these next couple of weeks.
And I would say it could be Hot Rod because he has the most potential. He's coming off an injury. He's got a pretty good leg like McLaughlin, but I think he could kick a little bit longer than him.
Okay.
So they may take their chance and go with him. And that, I don't know where the decision lies. You got to get a guy that's going to be able to kick beyond 50 yards. That's the reason why.
Yeah, it is. But you want the guy that can, you want the, and I heard McLaughlin talk about his range was probably, different days, depending on what the wind was doing, between 55 and 60, they were both kicking balls again, I want the guy that from 50 and in is going to be 85%. That's what we really, if you make a 55-yarder, great, but you got to have the guy that's consistently making the 40 to 50 yarders 85% of the time in that league.
I agree, but I think that's the reason why you get rid of Ryan Succop in the first place because there's no problem with him kicking inside the 40. It was outside. It was the 50 yards. So, in your opinion, who wins out the kicking job? Is it McLaughlin or is it Hot Rod?
Today, I would say McLaughlin. Again, we'll see what happens in the next 2 games, how they're going to rotate the kicks and all that stuff. But I would guess McLaughlin has the edge because, one, we heard McLaughlin talk to the media, and we didn't hear Hot Rod talk to the media, so that maybe tells you he's in the lead to some degree. But we'll see. I think it'll be a pretty good race, and if they kept either guy, it wouldn't. Again, they're going to keep a cheap guy. They're not going to pay a lot at that position, so that's another part of the deal is salary cap wise. They're going to pay a guy minimum money at that position this year.
Sounds good.
All right, Buccaneer fans, week 2, WFLA in the Tampa Bay area, NBC. Check out the Buccaneer Radio Network and our guy TJ Reeves, along with Gene and Dave Moore on the Buccaneer 98 Rock here in the Tampa Bay area, and then you can go to the Bucs app, the Buccaneer.com to listen to the broadcast online. If you don't have a Bucs affiliate in your town, go to the Buccaneer app. Here are our guy TJ, Gene, and Dave Moore, and Peter Blake. What? Give me a. Are you? What do you want to see? I mean, do you think it's going to matter if Kyle Trask has a good week this week, or do you think it's already decided?
No, I think it's already decided. You know, I go with my guy Ira Coffin, who we had on the Sports Web a couple of weeks ago. He put out a report saying he was told by somebody in that organization that Baker Mayfield is going to be the starter day one in Minnesota. I agree. I think he's shown more in practice, even though the interceptions, for me, I think he's taking more chances. We don't know, schematically what they're asking him to do. And then on top of it, the biggest thing for me, he has the experience that Kyle Trask does not. Trask may have all the potential, but he's only thrown the ball 9 times in his NFL career. It's basically like having a rookie quarterback and a new system. To me, that's not a good recipe for success. That's why I go with Baker Mayfield. He's been able to run that offense. He'll have the experience. I think he has the leg up. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield, no matter if Kyle Trask plays well versus the Jets or not.
Are you a little surprised that the Buccaneers agreed to go practice with the Jets, where Bowles used to be the head coach?
No, I don't think it's. I think it's a good test, and even he talked about it. It's all about situational football. What I'm surprised by is how the Jets are trying to screw with the Bucs' head by only having 1 practice instead of 2, like they said. But
I don't like that.
That's what the Jets do. That's how they're trying to run this and look at it. And I get it. They got the attitude. They can do that right now. But, they have to understand that they're a garbage organization and franchise, and they haven't done anything since Joe Namath has started quarterback there. And maybe some years there with the butt fumble himself, Mark Sanchez. That's been about it. Just because you got Aaron Rodgers doesn't make you a great franchise all of a sudden. So, stop screwing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their head. Stop doing that.
All right, I want to give a shout out to Paul Stewart, part of BuckPower.com, part of the BuckPower.com podcast network. Go to BuckPower.com for all your Bucs video, audio, statistical data. Paul is doing his countdown of 1 to 100 top Buccaneers of all time. I think he's in the low 30s now. I think he's doing 1 a day until he gets to number 1. So I saw Doug Martin in the mid 30s, which kind of surprised me a little bit. But
big time surprises. And you know what Jets, by the way, means, right? To every Jets fan out there, Jets.
What does that mean?
Just end the season.
Oh, God. Some hate coming out of Peter Blake to the New York Jet fans.
Right. There you go. How about that? Whatever his name is. Fireman Fred? Or
Fireman Ed. Fireman Ed.
Fireman Ed. Okay.
Fireman Ed. All right, Buck fans, appreciate you finding us again. If you haven't already done so, hit subscribe on that podcast platform. Be part of the BuckPower.com podcast network. This podcast will be every week in the regular season, and apparently we'll have another episode for you next week after week 2, leading into week 3. So yes, we will be here every week for you all the way through the end of the regular season. And find us, Peter Blake and I. Peter, tell everybody where they can find all your other work that you're doing. Not here, being that your contract was renewed by the podcast people here for another year.
We got to give them, what they want. We got to give them the great content, and of course, tune into the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web Live on Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe. Of course, look for I Love St. Pete, The Hub, Amped Up Sports, and now Bucs Life. 3 things: bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, your Rolex reporter. What time is it? It's my time. And for Bucs fans out there, it's your time.
There you go. Powers on Sports podcast for me, Florida football insiders. If you like college football, we're talking all things Florida college, all the state of Florida college football. They'll be coming out here at the end of August. Got some great guests for you. Got Florida and Florida State's play-by-play voices. We'll be part of the first episode. Yeah, baby. That's it.
Big time.
That's
it.
Powers. Sean Kelly and Jeff Colhane. We're going to be talking some USF football, some Miami football, all the programs in the state of Florida. Again, Powers on Sports podcast. And again, this great podcast we do. Thanks again, Paul Stewart, who we've just found out is coming to Tampa for the Tennessee game in November.
Whoa, wings. Food.
Wings on. Yeah, that's right. We're not going to make him pay for the wings, but he will be in town for the Tennessee game. Peter Blake will have a short walk. He'll have a short handshake because he wants to stay as far away from the check as he can. So
It's all that time I spend down in Tampa with you. That's the problem.
Jesus, man. Come on. Alligator arms, man. You are the king of the alligator arms.
Whatever. Don't call me Ricky Waters now. Come on.
All right, Buck fans. See you next week on the No Corner Given podcast. Let's go, Bucks. Here we go.